Hey, welcome back. So winter is finally starting to settle in here in Brooklyn. So I'm going to be making a hearty beef stew from Belgium called Carbonade Flamande. So to get started, I'm going to render out some bacon fat in a Dutch oven. Now, bacon is optional, so if you don't eat pork, go ahead and melt 60 grams of butter. As for the bacon, I've got 300 grams of it here that I've cut into small dice. I'm gonna set the heat to medium so that the fat has a chance to melt before the bacon gets crispy. And once it's looking crispy and your apartment smells like breakfast, let's remove that bacon off to the side. And in that lard that we rendered out, I'm gonna brown some beef. Here I have a kilo of bottom round that I'm cutting into 3-centimeter cubes. I like this cut because it's a large uniform piece with even marbling throughout, and it's relatively cheap. I got this for about $7. Now, if you're like me, there's no room at the bottom of your pot for anything else, so once the beef is fully browned, we're gonna remove it off to the side so we can deal with our onions. Now I'm gonna melt 60 grams of butter so there's enough fat in the bottom of the pot, and I'm gonna saute a sliced up onion. Now this is a hefty boy, so if you got smaller onions, go ahead and use 2. And at first it's gonna look like a lot of onion, but it'll caramelize and reduce as it cooks, so don't worry. Saute those guys until they've got some nice color from the fond and they've turned nice and translucent and soft, and then we'll throw back in our beef and bacon. Next, I'll add a couple tablespoons of flour and mix that in well. This will serve to thicken the stew a little bit. Once it's well mixed, we can add a couple sprigs of thyme, a couple bay leaves. We can season with salt and pepper. Mix it thoroughly, and we can go in with our liquid, which in this case is 375 milliliters of beer. Belgian, of course. I'm using Lef Brun, but any hearty Belgian ale will work here. Finally, we're gonna add a unique ingredient in the form of a spiced bread called pain d'épices, literally spiced bread. It's got a lot of warm spices, which give it a similar flavor profile to a Jamaican rum cake, but more the texture of a pumpkin bread. We're gonna cut 2 thin slices. Spread mustard on one side of each. And place those mustard side down in the stew. This is gonna start to sound like a stoner sort of, what do we have in the pantry kind of move, but the bread is actually an ingenious move. It's gonna serve to both season the stew with those spices and thicken it at the same time. Work harder, not smarter. Now we can reduce the heat to low, cover it up, and let it stew for 2.5 hours, stirring regularly. While our stew is stewing, we can go ahead and make some Belgian fries. I'm gonna cut a potato into 1-centimeter sticks, and I'll throw those in some water to release some of the extra starch and to keep them from oxidizing while we're waiting for the oil to come up to temperature. When we're ready to fry, we're gonna dry those off thoroughly and drop them into 140 degrees Celsius or 275 degree Fahrenheit oil for 6 minutes. We wanna gently cook the insides first before blasting them with high heat to brown them. So after 6 minutes, we're gonna remove them, let them cool for about 10 minutes, before throwing them back into 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degree Fahrenheit oil. Now you just want to watch these until they become crispy. It usually takes about 3 minutes. And we're ready to serve. This is so hearty. The beef is so tender after stewing for so long. The spices from the bread have actually transferred into the stew, and the beer serves to round out and mellow out all those sharp flavors into something that's just truly special. And it goes well with fries too. So now that it's getting cold out, I hope that you give this one a try, and let me know in the comments if you do and how it turned out. See you next time. Cheers.